You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Tigers apparently went hard after Lincoln Riley, and he chose USC over LSU. So the Tigers are still in search for a new coach. And we know one of the guys whom it will not be is Lincoln Riley. That is because Florida acted very quickly. The Florida Gators identified Lincoln Riley as their top target. Billy Napier as their top target. On Tuesday of last week, Scott Strickland met with Billy Napier, ended his search at that point, offered him the job, and very quickly thereafter, a deal was done and was announced on Sunday. Billy Napier is the new Florida head football coach. A couple of weeks ago, I ran a Twitter poll, and I want to be very clear. Like, a Twitter poll it's not scientific research. It was just sort of a social experiment to see what the general vibe would be of the fan base. And I said something to the effect of, if LSU misses on its top targets, which would you prefer? And I listed alphabetically Billy Napier, Bill O'Brien, and Mark Stoops. And overwhelmingly, something to the tune of 85, 87%, the respondents were Billy Napier. And I will salute Billy Napier because he had a legion of foot soldiers in Baton Rouge going to bat for him. I know this because they came to me too. You all know Billy Napier was on the show a month ago, whenever it was, and that wasn't by accident. It was someone who approached me and said, will you please put Billy Napier on your show? He wants to get in the mix for the LSU job. And so I was like, okay, put him on the show. I said, but I'm going to ask him about the LSU job. And so they're like, please, they want you to ask him about the LSU job. Billy Napier wanted the LSU job badly. If given the option, LSU or Florida, he would have taken the LSU job without blinking. I told you throughout this process that Billy Napier was never contacted by LSU about this job. He was never contacted. He was never interviewed. He was never considered for this job. And that may end up being LSU's loss. I want to be very clear. Throughout the entirety of this process, I've told you, I have a very low amount of anxiety about this coaching hire because I think LSU football is at a place where it is so stable that almost any competent coach can win here. I mean, the last three coaches at LSU have all won national championships, and I don't think anybody is considering Ed Ogeron or Les Miles as like peak offensive or defensive minds, like right at the top of the game. I don't mean that necessarily be a knock, but you understand what I mean. Like Lincoln Riley is this offensive savant, or Urban Meyer's this innovative offensive. You know what I mean? Like Ed and Les aren't that, but they won national championships here. So I really feel like if Scott Woodward knows what he's looking for in a candidate, that nearly any candidate could succeed with the right skill set. And that includes guys that may not be attractive to a lot of you, Bill O'Brien or Mark Stoops, and I get it. But Napier has about him a different vibe as a young guy in his early 40s who has been around, who's been at Alabama, who's been at Clemson, who was an OC at Arizona State. He's been the head coach at ULL the last 4 years. Each of the last three, he's won double-digit games. In the history of that program, they'd only had a double-digit win season once prior. He's done it each of the last 3 years. And very early in the process, when LSU fired Ed Ogeron, I've told you this before, this story. I'll just repeat it. I had someone who I know well who works at the University of Alabama who told me, listen, I talked to some coaches and admins here, and they feel like the only coaches that would be a problem for us, meaning Alabama, would be Mel Tucker and Billy Napier. Both came from the Saban tree, and both are maniacal workers and maniacal recruiters and awesome, and sort of more in the Kirby mold of Saban assistants that could go on and have great success. And that stuck with me because I respected that person's opinion a lot, so I started taking a really close look at Billy Napier. And LSU might have let the next great young one get out from under its nose because of hubris. I can't tell you definitively because I've not had this conversation with Scott Woodward. I want to be so abundantly clear about that. I can't tell you definitively what Scott Woodward thinks of Billy Napier. I can't tell you definitively if it was Scott's decision not to consider Billy Napier. What I do know is that there are many political factions in our state that were adamantly opposed, like multiplying by zero, to hiring the coach from Lafayette. There's no other way to say it. It could have been Jesus, but if he was coaching at Lafayette, they would not have been okay with LSU hiring the coach from Lafayette. I think that is horrifically short-sighted and flat out stupid. Because if you're going to tell me this guy was coaching at Southern Miss, South Florida, Tulsa, pick it. Pick the G5 school. Any other school outside of Louisiana, it would have been okay. But because he's in Lafayette, you can't hire the coach from Lafayette to Baton Rouge? I mean, Ohio State had a decade-long run with Jim Tressel. They got him from Division II Youngstown State in Ohio. Guy knew how to coach. I think this guy does too. And I think he's a problem for LSU at Florida, especially if LSU misses on this hire. Because Billy Napier, at 42 years old, could be the guy that stays at Florida for 15 years and wins multiple championships. Could be. Or maybe he's the next of a rising star that flames out, doesn't really have the juice to win. But he could be that. He could be. And the other immediate problem that LSU has with Billy Napier is recruiting. Because he is massively respected in recruiting circles. From high school coaches in this state, from the Amit Barber. Amit Barber, all of his ties to Alabama, you know who he's really close with? That guy. And now you start talking about losing Tangipahoa kids, not only to Nick in Tuscaloosa, but now to Billy in Gainesville. I'm not saying that's the reason you make or don't make a hire. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you had to hire Billy Napier so you don't lose in-state kids. That's not the reason. And LSU could still end up with a really great candidate, a really great coach and win championships and all that stuff. I'm not saying that this was, that this was a if I could steal a line from Terry, a digital hire. But there's plenty of great coaches that could do great at LSU. What I have a problem with is not even vetting a potential superstar because he coaches in Lafayette. And there's this old saying that sports and women make smart men stupid. And if the really smart, wealthy people who contribute to all the decision-making and the factions around LSU, if they were the ones, in fact, who put their foot down and said, not hire the coach from Lafayette, then some really smart men were made to look stupid because of this. Now, time will tell. We may look back in 5 years and Napier may have one winning season at Florida and be fired, and whoever LSU hires may win 5 natties. Who knows? And ultimately, history will be the judge, and we'll all look back with the benefit of hindsight and determine that. But to have not even considered this man, who had turned down Mississippi State and South Carolina and Auburn and Tennessee and Baylor, who had that much interest from programs in your own conference, and to not even consider him, to not even interview him, and to now be stuck in the situation you are, shows how mismanaged this was. If from the beginning LSU had told Billy Napier, hey, listen, we think we got a shot at Lincoln Riley. And if we can't get him, you're our fallback. He would have been good with that. Napier would have been okay with that. And they could have gone to him yesterday and hired him. And he would have told Florida, hang on. But they didn't. Hard to look at the situation any other way than being indecisive and mismanaged. Now, it could still have a very positive ending because, as I've said, LSU has tons of resources and a lot of money and a lot to offer, and some really good coach is going to be pumped to take this job. But it's probably not going to be the coach that fans wanted it to be at the beginning. And we know it's not going to be this guy because now you have to face him on the other side every year. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.